Welcome back to Swift on Sundays, folks. If it's your first time here, the routine normally is that we make an app in about an hour to an hour and a quarter, maybe an hour and a half. That's the normal plan. This time, we're actually starting 15 minutes later than normal, and that is entirely my fault. The project I've made for you is vast. It's far, far too big, which is obviously, it would make for a very boring live stream. So I cut back the project and tried it again, and I made it through about a third of the project in about an hour. So I cut it back some more, then cut it back some more, then cut it back some more, and it's still big, but it's way smaller than it was. I've taken out a lot of stuff to make it simplify, as simple as I can get it, basically. And I hope it still compiles. We're going to find out. If not, we'll do some on-the-fly rethinking in my head to figure out where it's all gone hideously wrong. But I've made it, I think, as simple as is feasibly possible. I can't make it any simpler, not without it being uninteresting. Anyway, the project this time, what we're making is an app that helps folks learn the command line. So if you're using macOS, which I guess most of you are, that is terminal.app in macOS, and that is the Unix command line where you can type commands, combine them together to make more advanced commands, and see the output. That's what the command line does. It is, of course, prevalent on Linux, all BSDs, Mac OS 10, and even Windows these days. So it's a very important skill to have. And the app is designed to make that easier by giving folks a sort of window into it. Now, we're going to design the skeleton of the app here, but it's very, very easy to expand, add more and more things. We're not going to do that because I did try and it just went so far ahead with time, it got silly. So this is the kind of thing, when I finally get around to writing up a Swift on Sundays book, I will expand in great detail to talk about the things I'd love to do in this stream and simply haven't got time for. So, like I said, as simple as I can get it, we'll figure out how it goes. Anyway, it should be an interesting exploration of table views for the bit we actually have time for. Before I start, I want to remind you of our rules. They're very simple. We do have admins or moderators in the channel who will watch out for these things. First is no harassment or abuse, zero tolerance for that. Second, if you have on-topic questions as I go, please ask me. I am watching the chat window carefully. If you have off-topic questions, i.e. everything else ever, hold it back to the end. If there is an end, of course, it's quite a long stream, and I'll answer it at the end. That's the plan. I also have some announcements. Next week, like in about 8 days, 9 days, is Swift Over Coffee Live, a live podcast between myself and my friend Sean Allen. At a live Swift Over Coffee episode. It's free to attend. It's at AltConf. If you go to a URL I'll paste into the chat window, you can go and watch that. That'll be lots of fun. I'll put it into the chat window there. It's go and grab a ticket. They're free of charge at AltConf. You haven't got to have an AltConf ticket to come along, and getting that thing does not give you an AltConf ticket either. They're separate events just held at the AltConf premises, which is next to WWDC. So there's that. Also is Hacking on Swift Live, which is about 40 days away now. I'll paste a link for that if you want to come to that. That is my own conference, a 2-day event here in the UK, teaching everything new from DubDub, plus stacks more, plus some of my favourite speakers. So that's happening soon. Come to that, please. And finally, go and snag my app Unwrap from the App Store for learning iOS. I put that in the link as well. And that is free of charge, no IAPs, on the App Store to learn Swift. So go check that out. Alex, that's a brilliant question. That's the kind of question I'll leave until the very, very end. Otherwise, I'll have no hope of doing this presentation. Okay, that is all the announcements and all the rules out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and launch Xcode and then share my screen so you can obviously watch what I'm doing. Otherwise, I'll be describing Xcode to you for the next hour or two, which is not much fun at all. So in OBS, I will choose that button. Boom. Okay, so there's the chat window, nice and clear. Fantastic. Yeah, and here's Xcode. So I'll choose create a new Xcode project. There we go. And as nearly always, we're going to choose an iOS single view app. And this time I'll call my thing Terminal Wizard. Okay, it's an app to help you learn the terminal in a wizard-like way. So press that, then press Next. Save to your desktop's fine. Boom. Come on. There we go. Okay, so our layout this time is basically 3 table views. But only one really needs design in terms of storyboard. The other 2, one's trivial, it requires no design whatsoever, it's basically empty almost. And the third one is very complicated comparatively to the other 2, so we'll be doing that entirely in code. But this first one we'll do with a layout in our storyboard. So I'll open up main.storyboard. And what we're going to have in our layout is a big table view full of options. You know, here are all the commands you want to run. Because like I said, Unix commands work, you say, do A, then put the output from A into B, then B into C, then C into D, and that's your full command, right? So this first screen will be a table view of all the commands you have stacked up. You know, list all running programs, then count how many there are. Or find all files owned by me from in my home directory, and then whatever. Just stuff, right? A, then B, then C, then D. Here, we're only going to do, I think, 3, maybe 4 if we have time. You can add 20 trivially to this to add, you know, once the code's done, adding more commands is very easy. So we're going to do, I think, 3 here to get you started. So a big list of commands. Then below it is going to be a label, which will show the command line terminal command to run. Like when you've got these 3 things, this is the actual command you want to type in. So you can, you know, use a little GUI to select your stuff, then see the actual command to run. Hey, if you run Toronto, you want to go to the new Swift Toronto event that I'm actually speaking at later on in the year. It is at swiftconf.to. It's on August 13th at Telis Harbour. Go and check that out. It's a 1-day event in August. Right, back to the agenda. So there'll be a big table view and a label at the bottom. Now, you'll see, of course, on iPhone 10 style devices, at the bottom of the screen is the home indicator. So we don't really want to get our label underneath the home indicator. We'll keep it above that thing, but also it needs to stand out quite nicely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead into the object library and start with our table at the top. Boom. Come on. Our table of options. Below that, I'm going to drag out a UI view, a plain UI view, and place that down here. Then inside the UI view, I'm going to add a label. So we've got a table, which will be most of the space. Below that, a view. Inside the view, a label, like that. And I'm going to give this view, the little view at the bottom, a background color of dark gray. And inside that, the label of white. So it becomes really clear. Here's a load of table stuff with, you know, white text, you know, and then below that, in gray, a background color. And inside that, our label text. That's how the layout's going to work. Now, what we want to do, really, to make this thing look good, is have the table view fill up most of the screen. Because in theory, there could be many commands running here, because that's the best thing about Unix commands. You can run as many as you like together, and they just get more and more powerful. And below it is this grey box. It'll sit below the table view and go right down to the end of the screen. It'll go below the home indicator. So it fills the bottom screen with grey. And inside the grey area is our white label text. But that should not go below the home indicator. So we're going to add some constraints here to make that whole thing sort of sit together. First, I'm going to control drag from the label to its view, to the view it's inside. I'm going to say this thing has, hold on shift, leading, top, and trailing constraints to that view. Like that. And I'll edit those constraints so they are exactly 20 each. So trailing's 20, leading is 20, and top is 20. Now there are red lines on my screen because that label has incomplete constraints. It doesn't know where it should be going vertically because there's no bottom constraint. It doesn't know what to do with itself here. So we're going to have to add an extra constraint. And what we're going to do is I'm going to say, hey label, I want your bottom constraint to go outside your parent view to the main view and use bottom space to safe area. And now it's got a full set of constraints almost. Not full, but almost. So to be clear, it has constraints of two different things. It's leading, trailing, and top constraints. They go to the grey view it's inside. Its bottom constraint will go to the safe area. Prathamesh asks, will the home indicator change color? It should do. It's designed to scan what's below it and slowly change color to a sort of opposite color brightness-wise. So we have our label like that. Now it still is angry because the view it's inside, which we're using constraints for, has not got constraints. So we've tried to add auto layout constraints to something without auto layout constraints, which isn't ideal. But the concept's sound. Well, one small change I need to make, by the way, align bottom safe area should not be 156, it should be 10. So just slightly above the safe area. So that is our label positioned inside the grey box. The next thing we're going to do is position the grey box. Our control drag from that inner view to the outer view. And if you hold down the Alt key, it will change between safe area and container margin. I'll hold down Alt and Shift so I can select multiple things. I'm going to go ahead and select from here leading and trailing and bottom. And it's disappeared in the screen because it's got all sizes all a bit wrong now, but that's okay. And for those constraints, I want to add some hard values, not just random values on my screen. I'll say trailing constraint should be, if you double click on it, should be not to the margin, so go right to the edge of the screen, and the constant should be 0. So it'll go right to the very edge, ignoring all safe areas. For its leading, where are we? Choose that view again. View. For its leading constraint, there we go. Again, I'll select second item and deselect relative to margins. It goes right to the edge of the screen and give it a constant of 0. So go right to the left edge of the screen. I'll choose view again and choose its bottom space and deselect margin and say your constant is 0. So go to the very bottom of the edge. And now you can see it fills this bottom space nicely. But inside it, the label still stays spaced away from the home indicator. And this is nice because we could have said, you know, oh yeah, the whole thing can stay above home indicator. Then you've sort of got a grey bar, then a white space below it. It doesn't look too pretty. This way, the outer view around the label goes right to the bottom under the home indicator as needed. And the label will float above the home indicator nicely. And even better, we haven't specified a size for this grey area. It's got no idea how big it should be. But it can figure that out because of the constraints from the label inside. That label, we've told it has a 20-20-20 sizing around itself plus 10 from the safe area. And so as this label grows, the UI view will grow as well. So I can go to Attributes Inspector here and say, you know, you've got line 0. Go with as many lines as you need. And if I add more text here, if I do, you know, label, boom, it'll just get higher and higher and higher. And the grey thing will just sit around it flawlessly every time. Looks really, really nice. So that is a nice way of putting a label at the bottom of the screen. And that's our label and view area done. For the table view, this is much easier, right? When I'm going to say the table view, control drag to the parent view, hold down shift, we'll do leading, trailing, and top. So go edge to edge. And then for the bottom constraint, I'll control drag from the table view down to the grey view. So it'll figure out how much space the grey view has used up and use the remainder for itself. For its constraints, of course, I don't want random numbers because we have like 144 and 534.5. That's all junk. I'll just enter in 0 for every one of those constraint values for the table view. So it goes edge to edge. Boom. Look at that. Now, of course, you'll know I nearly always put my table views inside navigation controllers. I'm super lazy. You can, of course, handle the top safe area by yourself. In this case, it's important to get that bar. Not only does it fix the safe area for us, but also we're going to be pushing and popping other view controllers shortly. So I'll select my view controller and go to Editor, Embed in, Navigation Controller. So it goes to Nav Controller. and gets pushed. Where is it? Where did that even go to? What even happened there? Ah, it's all the way down there. Useless. Thanks for that, IB. I can't wait. WWDC is only a few weeks away now. I'll be talking about that for sure. Anyway, so table now move down to make space for navigation control at the top, and move up to make space for our label at the bottom. And that is more or less our layout. There's not a lot to it, as you can see. The other two are all done in code. This is all done programmatically. Of course, we do need to have some Tableview cells. We could do that in code, but there's no real reason to do so here. We can do it all in IB because we're here anyway. If you select Tableview and change its prototype cells to 1, choose that cell, call it cell because I'm lazy. Change its style to be subtitle and give it accessory disclosure indicator. Little arrow on the right. And that's most of our layout done. We need some connections, of course. We can actually modify this thing. So I'm going to control drag from the table view up to its view controller and say you are the data source and you are the delegate. So get your information from the view controller. And finally, using the assistant editor, I'll add some connections so we can refer to that table view and the label at the bottom in code. So I will control drag from table view into view controller.swift and say you're called table view. And the label, not the view around the label itself, control drag from there into your code, and I'll call that thing output. That's the output from our command will be shown in there. Okay, that is our UI done. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the assistant editor, go back to our view controller. It's time to write some code. So what do we want to put inside this table view? The answer is a list of active Unix commands that are part of their command chain. They've said, show me all files owned by 2straws, then count how many you found. Or how many programs are running right now, how many you found, whatever. Medvid asks, is it okay to depend on add suggested constraints? It's a very good thing to use. It does use lots of very interesting fuzzy logic. Like if you get it off by a few points in your layout, you'll get a very different set of constraints. It does its best to figure out what you mean, basically, but it's lots and lots of guesswork on their behalf. So I use it a lot when I know what I'm doing, but I'll always check what it's done. I'll have a look and say what constraints it's made. In my own work, I nearly always just do constraints by hand. I know what I want. But I have situations where, like I think project 18 or so, or 16 of Hacking with macOS, we've got quite, 15, 20 controls in the layout. And it's like, I don't really want to make all those constraints by hand. Add missing constraints, boom, it just works. And it's like, wow, that saved me 20 minutes of control dragging, which is quite nice. Anyway, so this first table view is going to show a list of Unix commands. Do this, then do this, then do this, then do this. And it'll then flatten all 4 of those commands to a single piece of text, the exact thing you want to run on the command line to get those 4 things to happen. That's the plan. So I'm going to make a new struct that represents a single Unix command. So I'll say command n, new Swift file, and call this thing command.swift. And to begin with, this is going to be super simple, right? We're only adding a handful of commands because of literally time constraints. But we're going to say that a simple command, I don't know how good your Unix is right now, but one of the commands we're going to add is ps-aux. Show me all the commands that are running on my Mac right now. In fact, I can probably show it to you on the terminal window if I have a terminal somewhere open. In fact, let's just do, so ps-aux, boom. Show me all the programs I'm running on my Mac right now, and there are stacks of these obviously in my Mac right now. And they're mostly long because Macs don't tend to have short command names, so it doesn't even fit on the screen. Let's try again. There we go. So of course, their bridge is running. Cool, of course it is. AOS kit, whatever that is, who knows. My login terminal's there. But it's showing all commands, including other user commands. Everyone's commands are being shown right now. in there somewhere. Anyway, so those are the commands I'm running, and that is a simple command in my eyes. We're not going to let the user add any parameters to that. It's just ps aux, boom, that's your entire command. So it's a simple command. There are no options to that. We'll let the user provide. The options are the complicated, interesting part we could look at, and we'll look at shortly. But first we'll do it for a simple command with no options. So I'll say struct command. And a command has a friendly name string. This is, show all programs, not ps aux. It's just show all programs. What should it actually be? And then next is another property called root command. Again, this is a string. So here's the basic part of the command. In our case, that is just ps aux, because there are no options to work with. But later on, we'll add one, find, which has many options to work with. Do you want to find a particular file name? Do you want to find case insensitive? Where do you want to look from? And so forth. But they all start with the same root command, which is find. So that's our root command. We'll say another property here called var must be first, which is a bool. And this is the case for a handful of commands. Oh, hello, one of the dogs has arrived. I'm sorry, there's no super chats yet. Sorry, you got to wait. Some commands, in fact, quite a few in our list of things, must be run first. You can pipe command to command to command to command to command. Of course you can in Unix. But some only make sense when run first. For example, we're gonna have 3 commands, I think, in total in this application. One that, I've given you a scratch already. One that finds stuff, one that counts stuff, and one that runs programs. Checks programs are running, ps aux. Now, ps aux, show me which programs are running, must be run first. Because you might say, oh yeah, count how many things ps aux returned. But you couldn't then do A, then do B, then do C, then chain that to how many, running how many commands there are. Doesn't make sense. So this, sorry, the dog's getting right in the way. She wants some attention, clearly. So yes, some commands must be run first. It doesn't make sense to run them otherwise. Good question from John Google. Is ps not the actual root command and aux not the options? Yes, you're right. There's a distinction here in terms of options we expose to the user. We don't care, or they don't care, what the underlying root command is. They just know that ps aux aux is the actual command to run. I'm not exposing A and U and X as individual options, because that'd be overkill for people learning a terminal. Anyway, so must be first or not. And we'll add another property which is called summary, which is a string. And this is actually a computer property. And I'm just going to do, for now, return summary here. And we're going to add some more code to that. Well, both dogs are in here now. There's no super chats. You're not getting any treats. We'll add some more work in there to calculate summaries of these commands later on. Like, look for this file name or whatever. Count words or count characters. For now, we're just going to do summary here just to get us moving in the right direction. That is enough for now for us to update viewcontrol.swift to say, how did you get a squeaky toy? Seriously, getting 2 dogs has made so much noise in my house. Give me the toy, look, give me the toy. You're not having a squeaky toy in here, you're not having it. Right, okay. We can now say in viewcontrol.swift, I want an array of commands to be in here. Boom. As a property. And we can now make this view controller serve up rows of those commands. So it'll say how many commands we have, all 3, then this, and this, and this, and so forth. So, first things first, in viewcontrol.swift, I'm going to say you conform to UITableView delegate, TV delegate, boom, and UITV data source, like that. So it knows how to handle those 2 important protocols. I'll say in here that we have number of rows in section. We'll do return commands.count. So 1 row for every command we have. And then for cell for row at index path, that's going to go ahead and dequeue one of those cells we made by doing cell equals tableview.dequeue reusable cell. Identifier is cell. Index path is just index path. Hide this bar on the right, perhaps make some more space. There we go. We're going to pull out the command that we're working with. We'll do let cmd equals commands index path dot row. And now we can fill in our title label and detail label using the command name and the command summary. So I'll say cell.textLabel.text is cmd.friendlyname, which will be like find all files or something like that. Then cell detailTextLabel.text is cmd.summary. And right now that's a fixed string saying summary, but of course that's going to be something more advanced later on. We want to do something more later on. However, we'll make one small difference. We're going to say if this command must be first, so if this thing happens to be, show all programs that are running or whatever happens to be, if it must be first, we're going to say this text label has the text color of blue. Else cell text label text color is nil, so the default. So it's pretty clear to users, hey, this thing here needs to be run at the start, otherwise it makes no sense. Okay, and then return cell. Boom. So that'll show in our Tableview controller all the commands they've selected in their main full final command. Of course, there is currently no way to select commands. What do they actually want to run? We'll do that now. I'll press Command N, make a new file, choose Cocoa Touch class, and say this is called a choose command view controller. You might find it easy to make this thing a subclass of UIViewController rather than UITableViewController, because UITableViewController makes junk for you. I often just do that, make it a UIViewController subclass, and then afterwards make it a UITableViewController subclass, just to avoid the extra commented out code I actually want, like that. Boom. Question from Prathamesh. Difference between those two method calls, DQ reusable cell identifier and DQ reusable cell identifier for index path. The difference is the former one returns you an optional Tableview cell. It might fail what you want to do. The latter one always returns your Tableview cell and will crash if it can't find one with the identifier you requested. And they're both useful in their own way. In particular, if you want to make subtitled cells, it's very painful to do with the former. Or the latter one, you want to use the former one for that. In this project, I think we're using only the latter. I was busy trying to rewrite it at the last minute to use the latter one. I think I got through all of it. Anyway, we'll find out. It's an adventure. Anyway, this is where, when they want to select one Unix command to add to the program, this is what the screen they're going to see. It'll say what command you actually want to add. I'm going to say this thing has a weak var command controller, which is a view controller. What to report back to when they've chosen the command to run. It'll also have a var commands array, as an array of command. And that's going to be filled with all the commands they can choose from. Now, the first version of this project, which was about 4 hours long, did this entire thing using Struct and Codable. I took that out pretty fast because it's actually surprisingly hard to do this in Codable. It took me a lot of explanation to get it exactly right for folks to follow along with. Instead, we're going to do it in code because it's just simpler in the time we have. Anyway, first in Viewed Load, we're going to say this thing is a table view. It's going to show cells. There's nothing fancy here. It's just regular table view cells. So in Viewed Load, I'll say our table view register a cell class UITableView cell.self for an identifier cell. So we can get Tableview cells just by asking for a cell each time. That thing, Prathamesh, that is what makes the second option with an identifier for index path work. If you don't register a cell there, you won't get one, you'll get nil back, and it will crash your code. That's where you use the first one. You say, oh, I got nil back, make my own one by hand. Anyway, for now, we're going to add two super simple commands us to work with. We're going to say let ps equals a command. The friendly name is list all running programs. The root command is psaux, AUX. Must be first is true. Because this thing doesn't make sense after find all files, then run all list all running programs. It just makes no sense second command. Then commands.append ps. We'll do another one. Let less equals a command with a friendly main name output to scrolling window. And the root command for that is less. And this must not be first, or it doesn't have to be first. You can make it first if you really want to, but you don't have to. So we now have two commands to work, so I'll add that to the commands array as well. And these two actually work nicely together. You could say, show me all running programs and pipe to less. If I run a terminal window here, you can see this thing is long. There's lots of things running on my Mac, which is why it's so slow all the time. If I run psaux, boom, there's lots of things to scroll with. If I do psaux pipe less, it goes to a scrolling window. So I can now scroll around using the cursor keys. And that's the command we want to build. That's the command you're going to be able to build when you've added those two in the right order to our program. So that's psaux pipe less. That's what we're going to try and get to. Prathamash asks, the latter method with the index path only works if you register yourself first. Yes, exactly that. So you either register it by hand using that command there, register a class or nib for identifier, or using a prototype cell in the storyboard, whichever one works for you. Anyway, two commands to work with. Next we're going to say number of sections, number of section table view. There's only one, it's just a load of things to choose from. Which command do you want to add? For self-override index path, we're going to say let cell equals a table view dot dequeue is your cell, identifier is cell, index path is index path. Oops, index path. The command is commands index path dot row. Then cell dot text label dot text is cmd dot friendly name. We'll give it an accessory type as well, so it knows to tap through to the next thing if they need to. Is dot disclosure indicator. Now, again, if this command must be first, then cell text label text is dot blue, else cell text label text is nil. Oh, sorry. Yeah, text color, not text. Idiot, Hudson. Nil. Boom. What does table register do? This thing says when we want to make a cell called cell, that's what we expect to receive back, a table view cell. So down here, when I say give me an identifier cell, I'll get back one of those things. And that really matters. You know, shortly, in, well, it depends about 20 minutes, so how fast I talk, or the questions I get, we're going to have different kinds of cells being returned based on what they've asked for, based on what it requires to configure this command. So it becomes really important to say, here's one cell called select, here's one called check, here's one called cell, whatever, and it'll choose the right one appropriately. Anyway, so that will now create, dequeue, and show various cells, which is great. We want to show this thing when a button is pressed in the first view controller. They press add, they want to add a command. Here are the available commands, which one do you want to add? So in view controller Swift, in view load, I'm going to say our navigation item has a right bar button item equal to a UI bar button item. I'm going to use bar button system item. We're going to use the item.add, which is the little plus icon in iOS. The target, I'll do self. And the action, I'll do hash selector add command, which does not exist yet, so let's go complain in a second when it catches up. So when I press that add button, I'm going to add a new command. And that means showing our choose command view controller with all the available commands. They produce one of those, we add it to the list. That's the plan. So down here, we're going to say at obj func, func, add command. Let me scroll down, make some space. There we go. Add command. Let VC equals a new choose command view controller with the style of .plain, so no groups. We'll set ourselves to be its command controller so it can report back to us. Oh, did I make a mistake? I'll come back to that in a second. And then, anyway, make it assign ourselves as its command controller, and then do navigation controller, question mark dot push view controller, VC, animated, true. So there's a mistake apparently missing return cell. Oh yeah, hey, thank you very much. Return cell. Good spot, Yami Yugi. Anyway, in theory that more or less works. Yeah, build succeeds, great. Okay, so now I've said we've got a button in the top right corner of our original view controller. with a little plus icon, and when that's pressed, create a new choose command view controller, make ourselves its command controller so it can report back to us when a command's been selected, and push it onto the navigation stack, show it on the screen. So I'll press Command R now to build and run it and see how it looks. Let's big white screen. Awesome. Yeah, there we go. So it says plus, which is obviously not very good. I'll do plus. And there are no commands in there. Cool. I have muffed up something along the way. Let's look what I muffed up. Array of commands. You did load, command first, self-right index path. Number of sections. Didn't do number of rows in index path. My mistake. Number of rows in index path. In section, sorry. Is return commands.count. Silly mistake. Don't do that in your code. Make sure return the correct number of rows. Otherwise, you'll have a blank screen like me and look stupid live on YouTube. Okay, I'll press plus again, and hooray! So now you can see it, we have list all running programs and output to scrolling window. This one is blue because it's the kind of thing you want to run first. It doesn't make sense to be running second. This one is not blue because it makes sense being run second or third or fourth or fifth, right? So the things kind of come together, which is nice. What we can't do is choose one of these things. It doesn't do anything, right? What we want to do really is say, when they've pressed list all running programs, add that to our command chain and go back to the previous screen. So they can see list all running programs is now selected and usable in their command. That's the next step. So over in choose command view controller, I'm going to add, here's self row at, I'm going to add below that did select row at. I'm going to tap one of those rows in the choose command box. We're going to say pull out the command that's selected by saying let command equals commands index path dot row. So they've chose command 0, command 1, command 10, whatever it happens to be. We'll then call a method on the view controller saying, hey, this command was added. And, you know, this choose command view controller doesn't want to care what that means. We don't want to reach into the array and modify it. We just want to say, hey, this has happened. You do what you need to do. So in view controller Swift, I'll say func command added, some sort of command, and we know that means, you know, commands.append that command. That's all it really means internally, but you don't want to expose that to the world, so we just call command added, and we can now use that inside our Deselect Row method in choose command view controller. We can say get the command that they've tapped on, call command controller question mark dot command added. What did I call it? Add command. Oh no! What did I call this thing? Command controller. I call it command added, and it isn't working. Thanks for that Xcode. Maybe it's the press command B, give it a chance to wake up, perhaps. Let's try again. Command controller question mark dot. There we are. Command added. This Xcode being a bit slow. Command added our command, and then navigation controller question mark dot pop to root view controller animated true. So we've made our selection. Go back to the first screen again so they can see it on the screen like that. Now that's not going to work just yet. In fact, let's try it out. If I press command I, you can see for yourself it doesn't work because even though the command's been added, it's not in the UI. So here's the home screen, here's a plus button, I'll choose list of running programs, back to here, nothing's visible. And that happens because we haven't reloaded the table view. So over in view controller Swift, we're going to add somewhere near the top, we're going to say view will appear. So when we're being shown again, call super view will appear, animated, and tableview.reload data. So reload ourselves when we're being shown again to reflect the new command changes. I'll press Command R. How do we know if it's time? Oh, really badly. Excellent. And this is only a fraction of the way through. This project's so big. It's so big. Anyway, plus this is running programs. Boom. It's now visible in there. Output screen window. Okay, so you can see they can basically build up a series of commands being run as many as you want to right now. and it will basically run through all those and output one big long label of the actual Unix command to run to make those things happen. It's clearly not right. Summary here, there's nothing in the label, but this counts as progress, right? I think. Anyway, let's try and go a bit faster. By the way, if you are enjoying these videos, if you enjoy Swift on Sundays, it would mean a lot to me if you would like the video, because I do rely on folks liking videos and leaving nice comments to help YouTube recommend the video to other people. Without that, YouTube doesn't show the video to anyone else. So I do rely on folks liking the video, sharing it, adding comments and so forth. Subscribe to the channel. It does mean a lot. It does help me out. And of course, it helps me out. I make more videos. It helps you out. So by liking the video, you help yourself and help me. Everyone wins. Sound good? So, like the video and subscribe to the channel. All those good things. Anyway, let's move on to the challenging stuff. And this is trivial stuff, right? Just listing running programs and stuff. I want to really dive into what makes table views tick. And this is where it gets much harder, I think. And this is despite me trying to trim it down dramatically. Let's give you a long stream. I'm here all night at this rate. What we want to do really is look at some more advanced commands, right? We want to look at commands with options users can select. As someone said earlier, ps-aux, the AUX part, is an option to the command. We're not exposing it here. It just lists all running programs, all they see. We're now going to make a new command where the options are exposed to end users, and they can choose which one they want. So I'm going to start by saying that if you like the video, yeah, look at those likings shoot upwards. Thank you very much. It does help. It really helps me a lot. You know, you're liking the video, and of course, it helps you too. So everyone's a winner. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and add a new protocol to my program to represent what options look like, at the very least, what we have to know about them. So I'll say there's a new Swift file, and this thing is called command option. Powerman, what does super do with method calls? It asks the parent class to do its work for those methods. So when I've done my viewDidLoad method code, I want the parent to run its stuff first. And I believe this was the case for a very, very long time. Super viewDidLoad did nothing at all. Like UITableViewController viewDidLoad did nothing at all. But that might change at any minute, any day. We don't care. iOS 13 is due out next week. Let's face it. It'll be in there. They may add things to UITableViewController's super viewDidLoad method. And if you aren't calling it, it might hit problems. So when you can, it's usually a good idea to call super. Anyway, we're going to add a protocol to describe what command options look like. So I'll say protocol command option. It's going to have only two values for it. One is a title string, what this thing is exposed to end users. You know, find username, or is it case sensitive or not, whatever. We're also going to say, is there a prefix string? Now this is important because, let's say we're about to add the find command, and one of the options we're going to say is, find things owned by user 2 straws. And this is useful because we want folks to say, you know, enter 2 straws, fine, look for the word 2 straws. To do that with the find command, you have to pass -user 2 straws. And that -user part, the user of our program doesn't want to care about. They don't know -user, that's why using our program. That's our prefix. We'll silently add -user before their value of 2 straws. Okay, that's all it takes to be a command option. Now we're going to add 3 different kinds. I've chosen 3 because it lets us describe a wide range of commands very easily, while also showing you some more interesting Swift. One is when you can choose one of these several values, A, B, C, or D. Do you want to look for this kind of thing or that kind of thing? For example, in the find command, you can say start from the current directory, or start from my home directory, or start from the root directory, or start from somewhere else. So a handful of options to choose from, you know, 3 or 4 or 5 options to choose from. That's one type. The second type is a toggle switch. Do you want A or do you want B? For example, when you're finding stuff, do you want to look for the file name, case sensitive? So if it's 2 straws, capital T, capital S. Otherwise, don't. So that's case sensitive. And the third type is a text entry. look for a particular thing. Look for a file name called this thing, or the username of this thing. So, yeah. Prathamesh is saying it's always a good idea to call the parent of the method a superclass. You're mostly correct, but there are so many exceptions to that. And Smongo cited a very good one. That's the example I would have given is LoadView. And similarly, observing values for KVO will often crash. We call the parent. It just bang, hurrah. Anyway, so not always, but usually it's a good idea. Anyway, so there's three kinds of things we work with. When you're selecting things between options A, B, C, or D, there is a toggle switch area, so it's on or it's off, or it's a free text entry. So you want to enter the username or the file name, search or whatever it is. So I'll press Command N, make a new file. I'll say it's a new Swift file called select command. Now, this thing, struct select command, is a command option. So we can use it inside our commands as options to a command, which means it must have a title string and must have a prefix string. We're also going to give it a value integer. Which of the things was chosen? Was it option 0, 1, 2, or 3? Plus friendly values is a string array. And actual values is a string array. Now, what this means is the actual values say things like, do you want to search from the current directory, your home directory, the root directory, or somewhere else? Things that users of our iOS app can understand really clearly. The actual values, the current directory is a dot, a full stop, or a period. The root directory is a slash. Your home directory is a tilde. So there are actual values that the people using our app won't know about, really, because they're learning the terminal, which is why they're using our app. So there's a friendly values array of strings and an actual values array of strings that will match up in size and one will map together. Now, this ideally really ought to be a struct, really, because you don't want to share model data randomly. But I did find going down the struct route added another 30 minutes to this video in my test run. So I'm going to take a hideous cheat here and make this thing a class. Now, if you're not familiar, the difference between classes and structs are that classes are shared between owners. If you say, I have an instance of the object and so do you, we both point at the same instance, which means if I change one, it changes for you as well. And that's really helpful here because, the reason it's a helpful shortcut is because when we edit a command, we can pass it into an edit controller, they can edit it there, and it changes in the original view controller as well. And normally, when I'm making app, that's a really bad idea. You want to pass in a copy or a struct version of that, modify it, then post it back again. That adds another 30 minutes to the code here, so I'm making it a class to make it easier. It does, on the flip side, mean we have to write our own initializer, which is always annoying in Swift, particularly here because the initializer is trivial. So what we're going to do is we're going to make initializer quickly, and I'll show you a useful shortcut for doing initializers with classes quickly for like this kind of thing. We'll say there's an initializer called title, which is a string, prefix, which is a string, value, which is an int, friendly values, which is a string array, and actual values, which is a string array, like that. And what we're going to do is we're going to select all these properties and just paste them all into our initializer. Then I'm going to hold down the option key and drag down where it says var. And you see I now have 5 blinking cursors. I can now go ahead and delete var on all 5 lines, like that, and replace it with self dot. I can then press Alt, Shift, and Right to select the next word, Command C to the clipboard, delete the next bit, and paste it in. So you get like an instant class initializer. And it saves so much time, the multi-cursor selection in Xcode, particularly with Swift, because it have to do this thing by hand every time, which is very annoying. Anyway. So that is our entire select command class right there. And again, that's the one we have multiple rows of stuff. It's A, B, C, or D. I'll make another file which is what is a checkbox, a toggle switch. A is on or it's off. I'll press Command N, do a Swift file, call this thing a check command. And again, I'll say class because of shortcut reasons. Check command. Yes, I know that, Manuel. I explained why I wasn't going to do that. I thought I did anyway. This is also a command option. This has a title string and a prefix string. This has two commands. One's called checked command, which is a string, and one's called an unchecked command, which is a string. And the reason there has two commands here is because with find, you say look for the name abc.txt, and that's done with dash name abc.txt. That is the unchecked command for is it case sensitive or not. If it's not case sensitive, use dash name abc. If it's checked, if it's enabled, we run the checked command, which is dash iname insensitive name abc.txt. So we need two commands here, depending on if it's enabled or not in the switch box. And we have a value as well. So we'll do value is a string. Oh, sorry, bool. Are we checked or not? Again, read initializer. So I'll do init, title string, prefix string, checked command, string, unchecked command, string, and value bool. And again, if you weren't paying attention at the back, I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste these properties into the initializer. Boom. Select one and use option to drag down all five. Delete them all. Do self dot. Put on the clipboard. Delete the aftermath. Equals that. That makes literally no sense, Manuel. Maybe try it again, perhaps. There's an initializer right there. Ruchish, we are going to change the property values, which is grossly wrong. Trust me. It creates a whole world of problems, this short circuit. Even though it saves me a lot of talking, it still creates other problems you have to fix in your own time. Because we're now sharing instances of classes everywhere, which is just a disaster area. Anyway, we modify them directly, which is a bad idea. You want to use struct. You want to use let. Of course you do. Memorize initializer is much, much better. Anyway, we can't do it here for time reasons. Because it is already 7:05. We're already going more than an hour. Hurrah. Well, almost an hour, sorry. There's our check command. That's the one where it's either on or it's off. And finally, there's one more, very similar. Oh, not file txt, sorry. You should be text command. Text command, like that. Text command. Okay, so class text command is a command option. Has a title string and a prefix string. It also has a placeholder. What to show in grey text in its text box when nothing's typed in. We're also going to add whether this thing is numeric or not. We'll say var is numeric is a bool. If it is numeric, we want to show a decimal pad, otherwise a default pad. And then a value string. So the actual text they've typed into the command. Initializer, we're going to say, init with title, string, prefix, string, placeholder, string, is numeric, bool, and value string. One last time, copy all properties, paste them into the class, hold down option and just drag down in front of var, delete them all, do self dot, put all the values on the clipboard, and do a paste like that. Boom. That initializes all three types. Michael Stram, should there be optionals? No, I don't think so. I think they're pretty good as regular strings. What if you embed this struct in a class? Which struct? Do you mean the command struct or any struct? Will the value of the struct being shared? Yes. So what you're referring to is a technique called boxing and unboxing. If we put a struct into a class, the class becomes shared, therefore the struct is also shared. It's a technique called boxing, and it is helpful in a handful of places. But broadly speaking, data like this works best when it's data in, data out, not a class where everything's shared. Anyway, we now have 3 different kinds of struct, of class to work with, which should be a struct, but it's a class here. And we can now attach those to our commands. We can say, hey, this find command, you have multiple options to work with. So I'll say, after must be first, var options is an array of command option. And that will cause our current code to break because we have to pass an empty array of options for ps aux. So options is an empty array, and less also options is an empty array, like that. Okay. We've now defined several different kinds of option: checkbox, selection option, and text option. We now attach those to commands, so a single command can have many kinds of options inside it. The important step next is to let users create choose a command like find, and then select from all the possible options what value they want. Look for this file name, case sensitive, in this directory, owned by 2straws, whatever it is. A table of all those options. And this requires creating some custom Tableview cells. You don't have to do this. You can do it, of course, without this. It's more ugly, to be honest with you. This is a cleaner, nicer, more maintainable way of doing it. I've still taken some shortcuts because his time is whizzing on so quickly, but at least it's a better way of doing it. So we're going to start making a new subclass of UITableViewCell. And this one will be called a check Tableview cell. That's the on and off box, the switch thing. I'll press next, then press create, and ditch its junk. We don't need any of this stuff automatically. It's all fine as it is. So this thing is going to have a switch inside it as accessory view. It'll say, do you want to do this thing? Yes or no. So we'll say, let toggle is a UI switch. That's a switch we want to work with. We're also going to say, when that switch has been toggled, on and off, tell somebody else it's happened. Say, hey, this thing's happened, what do you want to do? Because this will be owned by the main Tableview controller, it'll say, oh, you've just turned off case sensitive. Attach that to our command. So it can modify its command as they're choosing things. And we'll model that using a closure. We'll say var switch changed is a closure that is bool, is it on or is it off, and returns void. And it's optional, so we haven't got that passing initializers. So is the switch on or off? That is our entire value we care about. Now we can say override the initializer with a cell style. We'll just pass it on to super straight away, super init, ever styles passed in, and identifiers passed in. Now, when we have a toggle switch inside our cell, we don't want to let users tap our cell to select stuff. You know, if you're tapping on that thing, shouldn't make it go grey. So I'll say selection style is none. Leave it so they can tap all they want to, nothing actually happens. When they toggle the switch, we want to make sure this switched changed closure is called. But you can't do that, of course, in Swift, because it has to go through Objective-C. Objective-C uses target selector stuff. What we have to do is do a little method internally to our cell, which will handle the switch being changed, and will call switch change the closure, so whatever else is owning the thing can figure it out what that really means. So I'll say our toggle switch dot add target, call self with a selector hash selector switch changed for the event dot value changed. So when they flick the switch, call a method. In this case, we're going to say at Objective-C func switch changed, and immediately just call switch changed. Call our little action. But we should probably call it switch changed action or something to make it a bit clearer. Switch changed action. It's optional, and we'll pass in whether our toggle switch is on, like that. So this thing here, our switch change method, is essentially just a little func, a little layer between the UI switch and the closure we've passed in. Because you can't call the closure directly, we call a local method called switch changed, and that calls the closure. That's how you got to do it, sadly. Anyway, so add that target. We'll call, just to make sure, we'll call toggle.size to fit. Make sure it's the right size for itself. A smart idea. And assign that to be our accessory view. That's the thing on the right hand side of the table view cell next to the label. Accessory view equals toggle, like that. Xcode's warning us we have to implement init coder, so I'll just do a fix it there. Boom. We don't care. I'm not using init coder here. We're using init style. Okay. That's our first cell style. We have a checkbox on or off. The second one is a text field thing, when there's a text box they can type into. And this will work in much the same way. There'll be a local method we call when the text field changes, and that will call a closure somewhere else to say, okay, this has happened, what do you want to do? So I'll press Command N again, and choose Google Touch class. Still UITableViewCell subclass. This time I'll call it Text TableViewCell. Then press Next, and create. This is really similar to the previous one. So I'll say we have a text field. So let text field is a UI text field. Has a closure that we call when the text changed. So I'll say var text changed action is a closure. Takes a string, the new value that it's set to, returns void, and is optional. For the initializer, I'll override the default cell style initializer. Call super init straight away, passing in that style and the identifier. Again, we want a selection style of none, so that there's no grey box when they sort of tap around the text box. But we do need to make our text field have some configuration, because the text field by itself is, no size, no placeholder, no style, no resizing. It doesn't look great, right? We're going to modify it to make it more interesting. We're going to say our text field, most importantly, has tamic, which is translates auto-resizing mask into constraints. Text field tamic is false. Text field dot add target self hash selector text field changed. That's our little bounce method that calls the closure, just like last time. For editing changed. And I'll write that closure now for before it's angry. I'll say at obc func text field changed, like that, and immediately just call text changed action, passing in our text field dot text or empty string if we can't find it. Again, we cannot call this closure directly from the add target call. There's no way of doing it in C/Swift. Isn't possible. We're going to bounce it through a local method that calls a closure for us. Sucks. There you go. As before, we've got to implement init coder, so fine. Just do fix. It's fine. That's default. It's good. We're going to add some more options here to make our text field more useful, because by default you get auto correction, you get auto capitalization and stuff. Things that make sense when you're adding someone's name or address or a post-it note, whatever it is. Here though, it's a Unix command, and they don't respond very well to being auto-corrected or auto-capitalized. So I'm going to turn off that kind of nice stuff by saying text field dot auto correction type is .no, and text field dot auto capitalization type equals .none. I love the way one's called .no and the other one's called .none. There's just no consistency here whatsoever. We want this thing to report back to the Tableview cell when editing's finished. When someone presses the return key, so we can hide the keyboard by default. So we'll say text field dot delegate is us, and modify our declaration so we are a UI text field delegate. So we can understand when the return button is pressed what to do. We're going to do one sneaky hack here, and I'll explain it later on. And it's again a shortcut to try and get this thing through faster, because it's already 20 minutes past 7. We're going to say text field dot tag is some number. Now you can use, of course, 1 or 2 or 1,000. When I'm putting hacks in place for tags particularly, I'll nearly always use some obviously wrong number. In this case, a common one is 0x dead beef. It's hexadecimal number, DEADBEF. There are lots of these things you can work with. A lot of people will use things like cafe dude, whatever. some obviously wrong number that's saying this is a hack, it shouldn't be here, there's going to be a better way of doing this thing. We'll come back to that later on, as you'll see. That's our text field, and that's going to fill up all the available space. So we'll go ahead and say content view dot add subview that text field. And we're going to add some constraints here to make sure this thing fills all the available area. Now, we don't want to go really all the area because it will go right to the very left and right and top and bottom edges. It won't look great. We want to go to the area around the layout margin, so there's a bit of padding around the edges so it looks a bit nicer on screen. So we'll say ns layout constraints dot activate an array of, come on, not that, array of, there we go, an array of text field dot top anchor dot constraint equal to content view dot layout margins guide dot top anchor. Boom. Then copy and paste that a few times. So we've got 4 of these things. That's top anchor, we need bottom anchor, we need leading anchor, and we need trailing anchor, like that. And I'll modify the first bit as well. So top, bottom, leading, and trailing. Okay. One last thing I think in this class, which is that we've made ourselves be the delegate of our text field. And we've done that so we can say in here, text field should return, which means when they press return, what should happen? We're going to say our text field should resign first responder, then return true to say it's finished its job, we're finished with the text field. And that gives us the 3 classes we need for our Tableview cell. We have check Tableview cell for on and off. We have text Tableview cell for enter some text. The third one is just select one of these 3 things. That's a regular Tableview cell, so there's no custom class required for that. I'm also covering self-sizing Tableview cells. There's no need for it here. It'll size by default to fit because all we have is a text box which will scroll to the right and a checkbox. There's no need for it here. Anyway, we now have 3 custom, count them, 3 custom ways of making cells. Checkbox cell, text cell, and the built-in default set cell type. We're now going to wrap that into a new Tableview controller, which will show all possible variations of those cell types for the command we want to work with. This takes quite a bit of code, as you'll see, but we'll get through it. I'll press Command N, using a new Touch class, and make this thing a UITableView controller called Edit Command. Edit Command View Controller. Again, a little hack here, make a UIViewController subclass to get less code made for me. It does wind me up a little bit. And then make that a UITableViewController subclass, just so I get less things to delete. Boom. Okay. This has only one property, which is the active command it is editing. They've chosen find, that's the command I'm working with, that's the one I'm going to modify. So I'll do var active command is a command implicitly unwrapped. It must have one. You can add an assertion if you want to, saying it definitely has one, but it has to have one in order to show the screen. Inside view load, I'm going to say navigation item dot title. The title of our view controller is the active command friendly name. So find some files. Yes, Mongo, you're seeing a tiny fraction of what the original project was. It was so much bigger. Oh lordy. Anyway, friendly name. So find all files within the top bar of the screen. This is where we're going to register multiple types of cells. So we're going to say we want 3 kinds of cells, one called select for our multiple selection options, one called check, and one called text. So I'll say tableview.register, the cell class UITableViewCell.self, for its identifier select. So when it's select A, B, C, and D, use a built-in Tableview cell type. I will copy and paste that twice more and say for the check type, I want to use a check Tableview cell. And then for the text type, I want to use a text Tableview cell. So my custom subclasses of the UITableViewCell subclass are used for those 2. And finally, I'll do one last little thing in here, which is to do Tableview dot keyboard dismiss mode. Lovely thing in iOS. You can make it so that when they start dragging the table around, dismiss the keyboard. So I'll do on drag. I should say that interactive is usually quite nice because you can cancel by pulling upwards again, but on drag kind of works better here. So when they start dragging, hide the keyboard. Okay. Next up, how many sections do we have? Now, to make this thing look really nice, hello Aria, how are you doing? To make this thing look really nice, we're going to use a group table view with multiple sections down the line, so you can see exactly where things are, so it isn't confusing. So, sorry. I think I've got a dog allergy, you know, Aria. Anyway, we're going to say in here, number of sections. I can't give you a scratch, clear off. How many sections are there? It's simple, however many options we have. So I'm going to do return rActiveCommand.options.count. So for every option we have, we'll have one section on the screen. Thank you very much. For, oops, there's a square bracket there is needed. For the title for header and section, we're going to say, do you have a title or not? Because the select one makes sense. Choose one of these three things. You've got a title, fine, that makes sense. For the text command, it'll be, do you want to enter a username here? And a big username box below it. But for the check command, we're not going to add a title to the header, because the title will be next to the checkbox. It'll have title and then checkbox in line with it in Tableview cell itself. So only 2 of our cell types will have a header title. Quick summary of keyboard smith modes again. Yes, of course I can. So there's only 3 to work with. One is none. Leave the keyboard up as I scroll around freely. One is on drag. So you drag slightly, hide the keyboard. Gone. The one I normally use is interactive, which means as you start scrolling, it'll start animating the keyboard away. And as you scroll more, it hides it more and more and more until it's gone fully. But if you pull down again, it'll bring the keyboard up again. So you can cancel as you go. In this case, I think on drag works better, but experiment. It'll be your code shortly. Anyway, in title, header, and section, we want to return a title only if we're not a check command. If we're a check command option, we don't want to have a title because that's in the Tableview cell directly. So we're going to say let item equals active command dot options at this section number. Read the option we're looking at right now. And if this thing is a select command, return the title of the command. So I'll say if item is select command, then return item.title. Else if item is a text command, return item title. But if we're still here, if it's neither of those things, return nil. So the select command can't have a title in its cells, because that's being used for the friendly names to select. You want to use a home directory or a different directory or the root directory, whatever it is. A text command can't be used because it's filling the whole space with a text box. But the checkbox has enough space to put the command title directly along the checkbox. So we'll return nil for that one. Next up is height for header and section. So I'll do height for header in section and try and scroll down, make some space. In this one, we're going to say, is there a title for this thing or not? So if there is, we'll allocate space. If there isn't, we won't. We'll say let item equals active commands dot options at section. And if the item title is empty, so there is no title here, use a small height, right? Only a little bit of space because there's not much space required. Otherwise, return 44, a nice chunky big title space to break up the screen quite cleanly on the screen. For the footer, we're also going to have a footer, so it pads things out on the screen really clearly. Otherwise, it gets bolted together and it looks very ugly on the screen. This one's called height for footer in section, unsurprisingly. We're going to say if our section is the table view number of sections minus 1. If this is the last section we're working with, then add some space so we can scroll down to a little bit beyond. 44. Otherwise, return basically 0. You can't actually do 0. UIKit doesn't like it very much. you got to return 0.00001, right? In Swift, the nice way of doing that is something like dot least non-zero magnitude. That basically means 0, but it's not actually 0 because it doesn't like 0. Hurrah. Anyway, now for the important stuff. How many rows do we have in our section? Now, if you remember, we have 3 types. One is on or off. There's 1 row. One is a text box. That has 1 row. One is a selection. Is it A, B, C, or D? That has multiple rows. So we're going to handle those differently here. So we'll say number of rows in section. First pull out the item we're working with, we'll do let item equals active command dot options at our section. And now we're going to say, have we got a select command here? Because if we have as many rows as a select command has possible values to choose from. So if it was like current directory, home directory, root directory, some other directory, that's 4. So we're going to return 4 for that value, otherwise return 1. So we'll say if let's select equals item as a select command. If we've got a select command to work with, then return select.friendlyvalues.count. So we have those 4 values, return all 4 here. Then we'll say else if item is a check command. That's where it's either on or it's off. This has only 1 value, a single row of the checkbox. Else if item is text command. Again, return 1. For all other values, I'm going to do fatal error. Unknown command type. Refuse to even understand what this means, because they shouldn't be getting to that point. There should only really ever be 3 of these things. So regardless, we're returning here. Why here as and before is? So I'm using as and is in the same method here. Because there's a typecast to select command, and it exceeds or run the body of the condition. And it's important because we have to read the friendly values property. And if we don't do that, we'll get back a generic command option which has no friendly values. We can't read the value. For the other 2, we don't care what's inside there. We just care, is it a check command or a text command? We're not going to read any of its properties. We just want to say, is it or is it not? So it's a different way of checking. Okay, next up, that's how many rows we have. Now where it gets complicated. We've got to write code to dequeue different kinds of cells and configure them nicely and show them on the screen. And this requires making 3 methods. One that dequeues select commands, one for check commands, and one for text commands. So I'll start writing the method here. This is going to be called func cell for a command, which is a check command, at some index path, and it'll return a UITableView cell, like that. So this is going to be called, we have a check command, go ahead and create one of those things. So I'll say guard let cell equals a TableView dot dequeue to a cell identifier, check for index path, and do a typecast to our check TableView cell. If that fails, fatal error, unable to dequeue a check TableView cell. Boom. If we're here, we'll set our text label to be the command title. That's in line in the cell, not a header, it's inside the cell. So I'll say cell text label (text) equals command.title. Should be case sensitive or case insensitive. That's the label right there. We'll also set its toggle switch is on value, is it checked or not, to be our command value, what was saved by the user previously. Question from Ricardo, could have done if typecast is not equal to nil? Yes, you could have done. Using is better, just because it's what you mean, is it a thing or not? But yes, you could have done that, of course you could have done. This if else change, we factor a switch. Yeah, of course you can do that. You could, of course you could. I'm not sure it really clears things up too much, but of course you could have done. Anyway, set toggle switch to be either on or off, depending on what the value was saved as. And then, importantly, assign its closure. we're going to say cell.switch changed action. What to do when a switch has been changed on or off. This is a new closure with a weak self in and the value of the switch. So tell us, is it now on or is it off? So we can know what to do. In our case, we'll say, first make sure we have a check command to work with. Otherwise, it's going to go hideously wrong. We'll say guard let check command is self dot active command dot options at index path dot section as check command, else return. Now, realistically, that must always be true, because this cell has only been made because it had a check command at our options array at the right position. However, there is no harm being safe here. They flipped a switch just to make sure that we definitely have a check command at the array. If we don't, just bail out. So it's gone weirdly wrong. No harm being safe. But if we do have a check command, we'll say immediately our check command dot value equals the value, like that. Modify our save value to be the new value of the switch. And then outside the closure, return that cell back. Oops, return cell. So it goes off to be used in our table view. That's the first one done. And the other two are very, very similar. We'll do text command next. We'll do func cell for command text command at index path. Returns UITableView cell. Now you'll see these method names are the same. Cell for at. But they have a different parameter type list. This is a check command, this is a text command. We're overloading the method, so Swift will choose the right one depending on what it's called with. It's a nice way of working. Just like before, we're going to dequeue a cell, do a typecast, make sure it's all good. If it fails, we'll do a fatal error. So guard let cell equals tableview dot dequeue reusable cell identifier text for index path, our index path as a text Tableview cell, else fatal error unable to dequeue text Tableview cell, like that. Again, we're going to have a closure, so I'll do cell.textChangeAction equals weak self and the new text value in. So I've changed the text, call this method saying textChangeAction, passing the new text value. Just like before, make sure we have a text command to work with. Must always be true, but there's no harm being sure. Guard let text command equals self dot active command dot options index path dot section as a text command, else return. Should never happen. Michael Stram, could you do the same check? I don't mean my same check. That could be a nice 20 seconds ago or a minute ago. If you clarify what you mean, I'll answer the question. Again, text command dot value is our new text. So when the text has been changed to the cell, update our command with that new cell. Now we're going to use the placeholder and keyboard style we configured in that type of command. We can say if command.placeholder.is empty. So if there was no placeholder attached, we will say cell.textfield.placeholder is enter text, a sensible default. Else cell text field placeholder is the command's placeholder. So they want to say, the file in the search for or the username's own. That would be in the placeholder box. We'll say cell text field text is the command value. If there's a predefined value, look with the text by default, or what they've modified themselves later on using our little closure here, put that into our text field. And then we'll say if the command is numeric, modify the text field's keyboard. Command key cell dot text field dot keyboard type is decimal pad, so just numbers on iPhone. Else cell text field dot keyboard type is default, like that. Okay. So that gives us a function to handle checking stuff like on off, a function to handle text like that. The last type is when there's 4 or 5 to choose from. So it'll say, do you want A, B, C, or D? So it's another thing we'll do. Func cell for command, a select command at index path returns a UITableView cell. Let cell equals TableView dot DQ select for index path. There's no typecast required here. This thing is a regular TableView cell. Its text label, text, is going to be our, oops, we need a command pulled out, don't we? So we'll say let command equals, what were we saying before? Oh, sorry, this command's already there, isn't it? It's already been passed in right here. I'm being silly, sorry. Cell dot text label dot text is command dot friendly values index path dot row. Now, if you remember, the friendly values and the actual values map to things like current directory, root directory, home directory, a specific directory. Oh, I did. Well done, Greg. Return cell. So we're going to take that and put it into a text table like that. But in a given section of stuff, A, B, C, or D, you can only have one of those options. You can't like search my directory and something else. It's always or. So we'll say if index path dot row is equal to the command's value, if it's the row that was selected in the command, then accessory type should be checkmark. Else, accessory type should be none. So only one in the section is checked at any given time. And I'll get this time return cell. Like that. So that gives us now 3 methods. One to DQ each of the different kinds of things we want to have in our program. We're now going to map those 3 into a sort of parent method, cell for row at. We'll say, okay, here's the command. It's a text command. Use cell for command text command. So it'll look at the 3 options and choose which method to call inside cell for row at. So cell for row at, space, let item equals active command dot options index path dot section. And now we can say, did we get a section command, a select command or not, or a check command, whatever, and pass that into the right method being used. Now what we don't want to do is use the is check here. This is a typecast check because they expect to receive a select command or a check command or a text command, not a regular sort of command option. So we'll say if let select equals item as question mark select command, then return cell for select at index path. Else if let check equals item as question mark check command, return cell for check at index path. Else if let text equals item as question mark text command, return cell for text at index path. And for everything else, fatal error, unknown command type. Again, in production, that should never actually happen. There's no harm adding in, so at least if you get it wrong in the future, it'll tell you very clearly what you got wrong. So that method brings together the 3 we just wrote. It'll call either cell for command, select command, check command, or text command, depending on every command option they have inside that thing. So it'll do the right thing. Next, we've got to implement Deselect Row at. They've chosen one of our cells. What should we do? Now, in our case, as I've explained, the check command and the text command both aren't really selectable. We've made their section style be none. We don't really care when they're tapped. We care when there's text typed in or when that switch is toggled. We don't care when the cell itself is tapped, at least not at this point. If I was to finish this app, I certainly would make it do that because you want to sort of tap a cell to highlight the text box automatically, but you can fix that later on. Anyway, what we do care about though, if we are a select command, if it's A or B or C or D, we've tapped something. We want to do some work here. So the first thing we're going to do is say TableView dot deselect row at that index path animated true. Otherwise, it will stay highlighted and grayed if tapped it, which doesn't look great. You want to tap on it and it fades out again straight away. Next, we'll make sure we have an actual select command here. We don't care about check commands, we don't care about text commands, only select commands. So I'll say guard let select command equals active command dot options at index path dot section as select command. Else return. Ignore all other types of stuff. Now, as a reminder, we have to use section here because our sections store whole groups of stuff. So a section will be where do you want to look for files, and the rows will be here, 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 or here, or there, wherever it is, right? So the command itself, the select command that stores all those friendly values, is the section of our options, not the row. Oops. So now we are, now we have our select command, the one they chose. We can go ahead and say select command dot value. They've chosen a new option for this search criteria, for example, and it's going to use index path dot row. Which value did they choose of our 4 or 5 options? Which one did they actually choose? Save that away for later on. And now, most importantly, update the UI. Unselect all the other options that may have been checked and select the one that was checked. It needs to be checked, sorry. So I'll do for cell in TableView.visibleCells, only the ones you can actually see. First, make sure we have an index path for this, which we always should do, but iOS is funny sometimes. We'll say guard let cell index path equals TableView.index path for some cell, else return. It's possible that cell's in a reuse queue, we can't get it out somehow, there's no index path for it just yet. Anyway, if we haven't got one, we don't care about it, bail out. We're also going to make sure that this thing belongs to the same section as the one that just changed. Because it's possible as like, do you want A, B, C, or D? Section break, do you want A, B, C, or D for a different option? We don't want choosing one here to affect all these ones down here. We want to select only the ones in its current section. So we'll say, after that first check, guard let, go on, scroll down, guard let index path dot section be equal to cell index path dot section, else continue. So don't modify cells outside our current section. If we're still here, it means this cell belongs to our section and it's currently visible. So we'll say cell dot accessory type equals none. Deselect this thing. Outside the loop, once we've deselected all the things in our section, we want to select the one they just tapped. So I'll do let selected equals TableView dot cell for row at index path, then selected question mark dot accessory type equals dot check mark. So mark that one as being checked. I just tapped on it. Oh, it is angry. Oh, no let here. Sorry. Boom. My mistake. Okay. So it means when a cell is tapped, uncheck everything else in this section and check the one they chose and nothing else. That's what we're trying to do here. There's no point coming back in, Ari. I'm sorry, there's no super chats yet. You can come back later. I'll shake the bag when you're ready, okay? If everyone else gives you something, you get something, okay? All right. That completes, I think, at least for now, our edit command view controller screen. It's kind of come together quite nicely, I think. What we're going to do now is show that when in the choose command view controller, we're going to say in Deselect here, row index path, this thing right now, they add show running programs or show and scrolling window, we immediately go back to the main screen. We no longer want to do that. We want to show the next screen. Okay, you've chosen find. What do you want to find? And again, there's a little shortcut here to it. It's happened more quickly. That's all right. So we're going to modify this thing. There's a new command, finding stuff, which has lots of options for us to work with to really stress test our system. So in choose command view controller here, in view to load, we have our 2 commands right now, both trivial. I'm going to make a new one called find, and another new one called count. So we end up with 4 commands in total. Both of these 2 new ones have options for us to work with. And the count, we're going to use the command WC. So if I go into here, this is my psaux pipe less command. If I do psaux pipe wc -l, it'll mean count lines. How many programs are running right now? 517. That's why my Mac's constantly maxed out. Although it seems most of them are Xcode right now. Hurrah. Thanks, Xcode. Anyway, a lot of commands running right now. You can also do -c for characters. You can do -w for words. And it'll count them all. But the point is that there's a command here, wc, that counts words. It has 3 options: lines, characters, or words. That's going to be added to our program. Like in Xcode, I'm going to say there is a count parameter, I'll call it count1, which is a select command. Do you want A or B or C? The title will be count, like what do you want to count? The prefix, there is no prefix here. The value will be 0, so the first option by default. Friendly values will be letters, then lines, then words. What do you want to count? And the actual values will be an array of -c for letters, that's characters, -l for lines, and -w for words. Again, we don't expose that to users, hence the friendly values, which just wraps that in a nicer string to work with. So those are the options you want to present to users. We'll now wrap that inside a count command by saying let count equals a command. The friendly name will be count input words or lines. The root command is wc with a space. It's wc-l, wc-c, wc-w, depending on what they want to count. Must be first. This is false because you can count whatever you like. And the options, there's only one. That is our count1 option. So we're saying make a new command called count with that root command. And it's either going to have an option of -c, -w, or L or W, like that. Path measurement, I'm afraid not. For tax reasons, it gets awfully dodgy. But I'll think of you later on. She gets treats all the time. She's not a small, hungry dog, let's put it that way. So this is a simple test of our little program here. Is one thing there. I'll add a more complicated one now with multiple options that really work our system much, much harder. I'll make some space and then say let find one. The first parameter to find is going to be a select command. The title being start from. No prefix. Values start from 0. Friendly values, the current directory. Then your home directory. Then the root directory. Then somewhere else. So 4 possible options. The actual lies beneath that, well, the current directory is a dot, a full stop or a period. Your home directory is a tilde. The root directory is a slash. And somewhere else, I'm going to just put in /path/to/your/directory. So it's pretty clear to them to replace that bit with their whatever command they want to put instead. So that's the first thing. Where do you want to start from? We'll add find to. This is a check command. So that's the on or off situation. Let's have the title ignore case. Should it be case sensitive or not? Prefix is empty, no prefix. If it's checked, if it's enabled, i.e. we should ignore case, the command is -iname, like that. Ignore case, search for a name. The check command is just -name. And the value is false. Don't ignore case by default. Our second one. So that's a select, that's a check. Let's do a text. Let's do find3 is a text command. This is going to have a title of file name. What's the actual file name you want to work with? It could have stars or question marks to do what's called a glob, a broader search, or be a hard-coded string. I don't really mind what it is. There is no placeholder. It's fine. No prefix either. Is it numeric? No, it's not. The value is going to be, I guess, an empty string. It's their file name, right? So that's 3 things. Let's do a couple more. We'll do let find4 is a check command. This will have search subdirectories. Do you want to search the current directory or all directories? Prefix for this one is still an empty string. If it's checked, if you want to search subdirectories, that's actually the default behavior of the find command in the command line. So I'll just do an empty string. The unchecked command will provide an option for that. We'll say, for the unchecked command, dash max depth in lowercase 1. So when it's checked, when it's enabled, there is no command being passed into it. When it's unchecked, just search the current directory, we do max depth 1. And the value here will be false. So by default, just search the current directory. And we'll just do one more. Let find 5 equals another text command with the title owner username prefix is empty. Prefix, no, this is what actually required, my mistake, sorry. Prefix is where you do dash user, like that, dash user space. Because they'll provide a username, like 2 straws, we've got to put dash user before that silently so they don't see it. Placeholder is empty string, numeric is false, value is an empty string. Okay, those are the 5 options we want to create with our find command. It's a really advanced command. I think the original version had 8 with more advanced things again, but we're out of time. Remember, it's already 8 o'clock. It's a really long one. Anyway, our find command is a new command. The friendly name is find files by attribute. The root command is find, then space. Must be first is true, because it makes no sense to find commands, find stuff after you've done something else. It makes no sense otherwise. And for options, it's find 1, find 2, find 3, find 4, and find 5. Methods going out of... Is it? Shouldn't be. The lines wrap. Amit. Anyway, sorry, I know what you mean. The lines should wrap on my Xcode, so it shouldn't go out of anything. Anyway, that's our command. So now I'm going to add those 2 to our array by saying commands.append count and commands.append find, like that. So now I've got a load of extra commands. Here is the moment of truth. After like an hour and 3/4 of typing, when I press Command R, will this actually work or not? This requires some booze. Let's find out. Exciting times. I'll press plus. There's our 4 commands. When I choose count input words or lines, that goes back to the first thing again, which is wrong. If I do let's run attribute, yeah, okay. So it hasn't quite worked. That's all right, my mistake. The problem is, if you think about it, we haven't modified the way we're creating. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, fingers crossed, didn't actually work there, I'm afraid, Evan. The problem is that we have to modify the way we select the command. So in our choose command controller, here, there we go. So the problem is that we have this thing, we say Deselect Row at here. We add it to the array and pop to the root view controller straight away. And that's no longer good enough because now we have extra commands. We have to actually say, if we have options to work with, then let them edit them somehow. Otherwise, pop back to the root view controller. So that's what we want to do really. We also have to say, if you look at it in this view controller again, when we're here, we can't do anything with them either. So that also sucks. So we're going to fix those now. If I go to view controller Swift, we have self-row at, DQ cells and stuff. We need to add below that did select row at. So I've chosen a row. What do you want to do with it? In our case, we want to read out the command and show our new edit command view controller. So I'll say let command equals commands index path dot row. And if this thing has options, so if there's worthwhile selecting this thing, so if not is command dot options dot is empty, then let vc equals an edit command view controller with the style grouped. VC active command is the command that is chose, and navigation controller question mark dot push view controller VC animated true. So in theory, that should let me edit the the thing correctly. Let's find out. We'll find out shortly. Okay, so now we have the same thing again. I press plus, choose find files, then press find files. Boom, there we go. actually working correctly this time. So now you see here's our checkbox of stuff we can select through quite nicely. There's a checkbox here, on or off. A text box. I'm going to say the file name is hello.txt, and then subdirect is whatever, and O name is 2 straws. So that's worked quite nicely. You can see we're all different kinds of things being shown there in one place. Like I said, what it doesn't do and what it really ought to do with a bit of a workaround is that when you choose, count input words or lines, it shouldn't go back to the main view controller first. It should go back to the other view controller where you can edit the thing. Move the symmeter a bit, please. Where would you like it? Over the chat window? And I haven't got a lot of space here, Michele. So I've got a fairly large screen, but I haven't got a larger screen. Anyway, I put it there temporarily. When you modify it, so when you add a command, we push it onto the view stack straight away. And we'll do a bit of a hack for that, a bit of a workaround. So in choose command view controller, we have Deselect Row at. We just call command added straight away. That is okay, and it's important. What we want to do really though is say here, if command.options.is empty, then fine, pop to root view controller. This is a trivial thing, there's no options to trigger, just go back to the view controller. But if there are options, show them immediately. Let them customize those options immediately. So I'll say let vc equals edit command view controller with the style grouped. It has the active command of the command we just added right now. And now what we're going to do is replace our navigation controllers, view controllers. Now, you don't have to do this. You could just push onto the stack. Both options look a bit iffy, but you'll see. We'll say first, get the top view controller. We will do if let first equals navigation controller dot view controllers dot first. That will be our main view controller, our original view controller with a label at the bottom. Pull out the first one. We'll then say navigation controller dot set view controllers, an array of our original view controller plus our new view controller animated true. So it'll animate in the new view controller sliding in while also destroying the second view controller. And you'll see how it looks now. If I press Command R, it should look okay. Okay. It doesn't look great, it looks okay, but there you go. So here's our first view controller. I'll press Add. And when I choose a simple one like list of running programs, back to the main screen as you'd expect. But now a complicated one like count input words or lines, the new thing slides in, and when I go back, I'm back in the first view controller again. So it does a replacement with animation. And it kind of works here. It's not really required. I wouldn't be upset if you pressed Add, then back to the previous view controller. Either one works, but I'll give it a try. Anyway, at this point, we can now add commands to our program. You can see we have list of running programs, then count input words or lines. So this is kind of working together. What we want to do really is to make the program actually, work. And that means replacing summary here with the actual summary, find hello txt or count characters, whatever it is. And this bit at the bottom, the label, we want that to show the actual Unix command they should run to get these things happening here. So, first up, in our command, we have this summary computed property, and it just returns back summary here. That isn't good enough. We're going to say if options is empty, then return nothing at all. There's an empty string. It's a simple command. There are no options. If the options are not empty, we're going to go ahead and combine together a rough idea of what it means. We'll say the first value is something like find this file name or search by character, whatever it is. We're going to use that title backed up by the option they actually chose. So we'll say let title equals options 0.title, and var extra, what to put after the title is an empty string. And what we're going to do is we're going to dig through the various command options and decide which one to use for the extra. And you could, of course, put the whole thing in there. You could say, oh yes, look for case sensitive, this file name, this username owning it from the home directory. You could put the whole thing in there if you really wanted to. Here, I'm just going to choose one of these things. So we'll do if let select is option 0, the first option, as a select command. Then our extra value will be select friendly values select.value .lowercase. So say something like search for file name hello.txt, and we'll return back the title of the thing, search for file name, and our extra value, like that. So that's it for a select command. If we are a text command, we'll say if let text equals options 0 as text command. Then if the text value is empty, if they've added no text to search for, no username, whatever it is we're working with, then we'll do extra equals no value set. Else, come on, else extra is the text value. So search for this file name, whatever it is that value actually is. And then, regardless of what we choose, we're going to say return our title and our extra again. Boom. And finally, if let check equals option 0 as a check command. So if we have a check command, great. If check.value is true, return the title, return, look for this thing. Otherwise, return don't that title, lowercase. So it flips it around fairly trivially. And that is a better subtitle. If it's none of those things, you could add a fatal error to catch it if you want to, or just do an empty string. I don't really mind what you do. So that should make our subtitle look much, much better. Let's try it out. So I'll press plus and do list all running programs. No subtitle there. Then do count input words or lines. I'll do count words. Then press back. It'll say count input words or lines, count words. So it's pretty clear they've chosen the words option for that. I should be able to edit that to be lines and go back again, count lines. So it just gives a little summary of what the thing's trying to do. Only using the first option though. If you want to expand this, to have all the options coalesce into one string, it's your program, you do what you like. The next step is to make our commands output themselves. So you see we have this label at the bottom. Hello Luna, I'm sorry, there's no super chats. We're going to make our commands flatten themselves down. So when I say list all running programs, it knows that means PS Aux or something else. So it knows how to combine down itself into something bigger that we can put onto that string. So to fix that, we're going to go ahead and open up Command Swift and write a method in here called output. And this will flatten its command down to a single simple thing. So we'll say func write output returns a string. Scroll down a little bit. First, our output is an empty string by default. We'll then say if our root command is not empty. If we have a root command to work with, we don't always do, in our examples here we do, we'll say output plus equals our root command. So that might be PS Aux or something else. Next, we'll loop over all the options we have and write the output for those options, one at a time into our string. So for item in options, output plus equals a new method called write output for the item, and add a empty string at the end, like that, and then return the output. Then we'll do func write output for an item, which is a command option, returns a string, and this is going to go through every possible type we have: check command, text command, and select command, and flatten its values down to a single string. So let's say that root equals our prefix. So if we have, dash user, we had from one of these things, add that now, that is fixed. Next we'll say, what's the actual value inside these things, and modify our command based on those things. So we'll say if let check equals item as a check command. if we are a check command, awesome. If check.values, if we are true, then have we got a value to add? We'll say if check.checkCommand.isEmpty, return an empty string. This thing, when it's checked, does nothing at all. Just bail out. Otherwise, return our root string backed up by our command.checkCommand. Like that. Thank you very much, Matt. I'll hopefully give the dogs a treat when I get another one. Otherwise, they get very upset when only one dog gets a treat. Also, not command there. It should be check.checkCommand, like that. So if it's checked and it has text, add it in. Otherwise, send back blank. If we're not checked, else, and if our checked, unchecked command is empty, our command is empty, then return empty string. So the opposite of what we had before. Otherwise, return our root string backed up by the unchecked command. Like that. So return either the check command or the unchecked command with a prefix or an empty string, depending on what was actually worked out. And that is if we have check command selected. If we have a select command, it's only one of those possible things. This is much easier. We'll say else if let select equals item as question mark select command. Then all we have to do is read into that actual values array with their value and append that to the prefix. So we'll say return our root string backed up by select.actualValues select.value. So whatever they chose for that thing. Boom. And finally, if they have a text command, we'll say else if let text equals text item as text command, like that. Then make sure there's not a load of spaces, because they enter in like search for username dash space 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 space. It won't understand what that means. It'll think it's nothing at all. We have to remove that and then check if it's empty or not. We'll say let trimmed equals text.value.trimming characters in white spaces and new lines. If trimmed is empty, so this has no value other than white space, return empty string. Otherwise, return our root string backed up by our trimmed string, like that. For anything else, another fatal error. Unknown command type. No idea what that is, should never get there, no harm being safe. So that code there is enough to make every command flatten itself with a lowercase a there. Every command now knows how to flatten itself and all its options down to a single string. Now what we're going to do is write that output in our view controller. So in viewcontroller.swift, I'll make some space below command added and say func write output. And all this is going to do is go through every command, check it has some text, and add it to the output. So var stir equals an empty string. For command in the commands we have, let output equals command.write output. So flatten yourself, please, command. And now, if not output dot is empty, we have some text in there. If we have something in our string already, it means we've already flattened one command. So we can't just say, put that into our string. We've got to combine it with our previous command with a pipe symbol. That is shift backslash on my keyboard. I don't know what it is in your international keyboards, but for me it's shift backslash. We're going to say if not stir.isEmpty, if we have a value in there already, first trim out all white space. We'll do stir equals stir.trimming characters in white space new lines. Stir plus equals to space pipe space. That's the way Unix commands together. Do this, pipe, do that, pipe, do something else, pipe, something else. So space, pipe, space. And then, after that, stir.append our output. So it'll append the new command's output. After the loop, when everything's finished, we'll do one last trim of white space, make it as short as possible. We'll say let our command equals stir trimming characters in white space and new lines. And now, if at this point, if the command is empty, we want to say, hey, it's the first time the app's running, tap this thing to get started. Otherwise, show their command. So if command.isEmpty, output.text equals tap plus to get started, else output.text equals their command, like that. And now, to finish off the entire project, all being well, at 8:15, we're going to call write output when our view appears. So we're going to find view will appear up here. We reload the table and then call write output, like that. And in theory, that finishes our program. Let's find out. I'll press Command R. And I'm going to press plus and choose find files by attribute. From my home directory, ignoring case, hello.md, and search of directories owned by 2straws. Then press back, and you'll sit down here, find from tilde dash iname hello.md dash user 2straws. Perfect. Then I press plus and choose count words or count lines, like that. And now we see pipe wc-l. So what that command will do is search in my home directory for all files called hello.md owned by me and count how many it found. This command, if you don't know the terminal, is probably completely mind-boggling, but that's the point of the app. The app, you just say, oh, find files from my home directory and count how many you found. It's a much clearer way of working. And you can add more and more and more things. So you say, you know, output a scrolling window, and now it's piped less, and add more and more and more. And the original version, I had, I think, 8 or 9 or 10 or more commands in there to work with more options, but there's more enough for now, I think, quite frankly. I think you'll get the idea. And that, in 2 hours, I think our longest project yet, I didn't want it to be long, is our application. We've gone into, I think, a fair chunk of Tableview stuff. Realistically, I think you want to add from here, you know, basically to move cells around, to swipe to delete cells. You'd want to ditch the class thing as quickly as possible because we're sharing commands, and that's a really, really, really bad idea because they'll overwrite each other in confusing ways. You want to use structs. If I had more time, we'd have done codable. The reason I didn't do codable here is because it's actually surprisingly hard to do codable for this kind of thing. Matt Mick, thank you very much. It's very kind. Definitely get some dog treats when they come back in a second. I was like, get the dogs to come along now because Matt's giving some money as well. Luna, Aria. Yeah, so doing codable here, it's actually surprisingly hard because if you look at our commands type here, you'll see they have an array of command option, which is a protocol. Smungo, thank you very much. It's an array of command option, and command option is a protocol. So codable has no idea how to decode these things. Doesn't know whether it should be a text command or a check command or a select command. So you've got to do quite a bit of extra work to decode protocols using codable, because there's no way of doing it by hand. So that was in the original draft, and that was about an hour of explanation I trimmed out by going to doing it all in code instead and using classes rather than structs. So it causes problems in that you will find your classes overwrite each other regularly, which is really annoying in this project. But I mean, the fix is trivial enough. The fix is, you know, when we're in choose command view controller, when we call command added, you want to copy that command instance, get a deep copy using NS copying at that point. And that way it won't overwrite each other nicely. So you're slightly better off. It's still annoying because it's still classes rather than structs, but it's better. That's the main thing. Dogs have not come. So they came again and again and again when there was no food. And now they get treats. Now they get loads of treats. They don't want to come. Maybe they've gone outside to bark at each other for a while. I found that Samoyeds are quite barky breeds. So lesson learned there. Oh, hello. They've come up. Hello, Luna. Good girl. Right, come on, over here. Come and say hello. Right, come on, Luna first. Or one of you first. Come on. Right, come on. Come here. Come here, you bad dogs. Oh, you're getting heavy from all the treats. Right, you get at least 2 treats. You've got some generous donors who like you very much, it turns out. So yes, you get 2 treats. Yeah, Aria, wait your turn. Bad dog. Oi! Sit still. Sit still. Right, hold still. Let's put you on a big screen so they can all admire your fluffiness. There you go. That is from your friendly friends on the internet. They do like you very much, it turns out. Come here then. Oh, Aria, you're so heavy. Oh, you are so heavy. Good girl. You get 2 treats as well, because you've been a good girl. You came together, didn't you? Yes, you did. Okay. All right. Anyway, the main app is finished now. So if you have questions about the app, about anything Swifty, about WWDCs coming up real soon now, now is your chance to ask me anything you like. Go ahead. I will hang around for a while. It's already 20 past 8, but at least until we finish this glass of wine, I will answer questions. Any questions I can help you with? Okay, I'm glad you liked it. It's I think, a more advanced app, certainly a more involved app. There's nothing really advanced here. I took out all the codable stuff and all the struct posting of values and stuff to get the lengths down. There's nothing particularly advanced here, but we have delved, I think, more into table views with custom cell types and similar, and that's always fun to do. Yeah, so live coding is an interesting challenge. I mean, it is, yeah. Because I've got to think about what I'm doing right now to myself as a coding, and also talk about what I'm doing, explaining why I'm doing it this way and not some other way, and also try and read the chat window to look for questions coming in. So it's a number of things all at the same time, which is challenging, right? It's hard work. It's difficult to do. I would say that helpfully folks have learned not to ask questions about random things during the talk, which really helps. So yes, that helps. Is testing... Oh, sorry, Stephen missed your question there. Oh, sorry, Stian, yes, the code will be available. It's happening. It'll be up as soon as YouTube has the stream up, which will be in a few hours, I expect, or tomorrow. Usually, the problem is that I edit out the first bit on YouTube, the countdown timer thing I do with live streams. It takes them a few hours to do, so often I'll push the code to GitHub immediately, and then edit the stream when that's available. I'll tweet it out, something like that. How do you use a variable in another function or set another function? Stephen, you can't. Don't. You use properties for that if you have to. Otto asks, am I doing testing in Hundreds of Swift? No. Testing is in Hacking with Swift, briefly, and it's its own book, Testing Swift. It's a big topic to get it right. Robert, am I trying to compete with Kilo? No, Kyle's amazing. I've got Kyle speaking at my conference. I'm flying him out from LA to speak at my event in July. I wouldn't compete with Kilo Loco. He's great. What's my relationship with number 26? I have literally no relationship with number 26. It appears briefly in some tutorials because when I first wrote them... Connor, thank you very much. When I first wrote them, Taylor Swift was 26 at the time. So when I did person name Taylor Swift age 26, 26 gets used a fair amount because of that. Polyosthetics asks, am I excited for opaque return types? I am. That's a Swift 5.1 feature that I absolutely love. And if you look, I think I still have, if I put on my screen sharing again, I still have Swift 5.1 here because it's so good. And that's one of the major changes is that feature, opaque return types. And I believe, my best guess is that we're going to see Swift 5.1 shipping in beta form next Monday in Xcode 11. Xcode 11 is happening, iOS 13 is happening, and Swift 5.1 I think is almost certain to happen with those on Monday. What do we do? So collection views have automatic dimensions as well, Jayesh. You can use them there as well, so the same thing. Michele, I use Z shell or Z shell. I find it more useful, more flexible, more powerful, and I use something called Z Presto or Z Presto to add features to Z shell to make it more useful for me. And it's a great add-on. If you want to become a terminal power user, then look at Z shell. Isaac asks, what am I most looking forward about WWDC? For me, it's mostly meeting people. I love meeting people. you know, obviously I look forward to seeing new APIs, improved Xcode. You know, I really hope they're using Marzipan for unit tests on iOS, so I get macOS unit test speed, so everything tests much faster. That'd be super nice. I hope that happens. But it's meeting folks. I love going out there and meeting folks. You know, get coffee, get food, whatever, have breakfast, just hang out, meet folks. If you are at DubDub and you want to come and say hello, awesome. I love saying hello to folks. All I ask is, please, 3 things. Tell me your name. So many folks say, oh, hi Paul, I love your books, whatever, and don't give me their names. I don't know what to call them or see them later on. Tell me your name, please. If I've met you before, tell me where I met you before, because I meet literally thousands of folks every year. And I've walked past my own brother in public, right? So I'm useless with names. Say, hi Paul, I'm Bob. We met at DubDub last year. Great. And third, if I'm going somewhere else, I'm not being rude. I've arranged to have lunch or coffee, or I've got a date somewhere, whatever it is, an invite somewhere. I'm going somewhere else. I will come back to you, and we will talk. I will find you, and we'll get coffee or go through code, whatever. I will find you, but maybe not right then. If I'm walking with someone else to somewhere, we're usually going for lunch or coffee, and I don't want to say, oh, sorry, I need to talk to this other person for a while. I'm not being rude. If I can't talk to you right now, I'll talk to you later on. I will say it to you. I'm going to lunch right now. Are you free later? And, you know, tweet me or email me and we'll arrange a date. But I do want to hang out with you. I do want to say hello. Just give me a name. Tell me where you met. And don't be offended if I'm going somewhere else already. Otherwise, you'll be annoyed. Robert, you and Keith have very long live streams. I think he does much longer live streams than me. I went to one 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. He was building an app from scratch, a complete app, and shipping it to the App Store. And I went through a few hours and went to bed because it was late for me. Matt Misk asked, do you have any code using paint code as a sprite in Sprite Kit? You could probably use SK Shape now, couldn't you? I mean, I use my output from paint code in Unwrap in a UI Bezier path. My logo is a Bezier path from paint code. And that's why it draws itself in the app. And that's straight from paint code into Bezier path. I just place it into Bezier path and put it onto a UI view using CA shape layer. So I expect you can use SK shape node to do the same sort of thing. Stephen, do I often use Cocoa Pods? Yes, I do. They're very helpful. Alex, a next-gen social network has a beat. You know, honestly, my needs for social networking are really, really small. I use Facebook specifically because my grandmother uses Facebook. She's 93 or so. She uses Facebook. She wants to see pictures of my kids. I just put them on Facebook for her. That's all I do. This is why, you know, almost no one are my friends on Facebook, only family members, because it's just for doing pictures of my mother and my grandmother. So yes, I don't have much need for social networking, that's for sure. My Zshell theme, it's one of Zpresto's defaults. I forget what it's called, but I think it's probably the default actually. If you just Google up Zpresto, you'll find it. Zpresto. That's what I use. Come on. Hello? Where'd it go? You get over here. There. Come on. Okay, that's not going to work apparently. So I'll try that over here. Okay, Safari is very unhappy doing multiple windows right now. Yep, Safari's lost the plot. Okay, cool. Okay, Safari. Zpresto. Go and grab Zpresto and use that. You'll be fine using that. Yes. Wow, Safari's really annoyed. Anyway, Zpresto. Elasticsearch in iOS. I've never used Elasticsearch, sorry. That's not actually true. I've used it once and hated it. Because I was teaching someone, I was mentoring someone, and they really wanted to use Elasticsearch. So I was like, okay, fine, let's use it. And then we were doing something trivial, something really small, and they ended up with a 4 gig RAM cloud virtual machine. And I was like, we're not going to pay for that. It's pointless for a really trivial thing. Not going to be paid for anymore. Yeah, Matt, it's not that. It's Safari's refusing to let me even drag out a tab in the Safari. I can't even drag a tab out and show you Zpresto. Anyway. Yeah, it's. I'm not a big fan of Elasticsearch, but I'm sure it's great for many other things. Come on, Safari, you can do it. Just drag the tab out. Drag the tab out. Nope, it's going to do nothing at all. Absolute useless Safari. Right, if I... Oh yeah, Safari is basically just given up the ghost. Excellent. Yeah, Safari's given that. Marvellous. Anyway, let's ignore Presto and assume it works. If I just try and type into here, just look for... Wow, Safari's really gone nuts. Cool. Okay. Don't use Safari. It's a really bad advert for Safari right now. Right. Presto. P-R-E-Z-T-O. P-R-E-Z-T-O. Go look that up and Google that and you'll get Z Presto, which is a great tool for Z shell. Brian Vong says, Product UI better than storyboard. Fine. Great. Good for Brian. I mean, fine. I don't mind. I honestly, you use whichever one you like to do. So yeah, that makes you happy using storyboards. Use storyboards. You want to do it in code? Do code. All I ask is folks know how to do both. So when you join a company and they say I use storyboards or we only use code, you fit in because they will not take kindly to you saying sorry I don't use that. You got to do it my way or the highway. That never goes down well. If you were to buy a new monitor, which one do you buy? Well, I have the LG Ultrafine 5K right now. It's on its last legs. It's really not happy. I can't show it to you because of the way that obviously you can't see it, but I'm getting LED ghosting now, which is very annoying because if I zoom in on my screen, I can see a little bit of ghosting around the. It's always like the Apple icon in the top corner or the spotlight icon in the top right corner. I get ghosting there now, which is very annoying. It's not strong, but it's starting to get worse. So I'm hoping imminently Apple announce a new iMac Pro. I can buy one of those things and put this thing behind me. That'd be very nice. A bit lucky, quite frankly. But we'll see. We will see. What phone is my daily driver? I don't know what that even means, sorry. I use an iPhone XS Max. That's what you mean. And I like it very much. It's a good phone. I don't know where it is, mind you. Where are you? Gone walkies. Excellent. Lost my phone. See if my watch can find it. Ah, it's buried on my desk somewhere. Oh, there it is. There we go. One of these things. Great devices. Love it. Anyway. Any more questions? By the way, if you've bought any of my books, and I hope you have, you'll have seen lots of updates come through for those books for Swift 5. It's mostly minor changes. Swift 5 is a great release, but the key changes in there aren't likely to affect your projects unless you've got very specific needs, like raw strings or something. So they're fairly small updates, but I've got so many books now, it's just a lot of reading to get through. Particularly after the 100 days of Swift, it was quite an intense work period for me. But as of tomorrow, I'm almost free. I've got like a few more updates to do, and then I'm kind of free for a few days to migrate my server to a new server, and then dub. I fly on Friday. I can't wait. Do I think Apple update Apple TV again? Yes, I hope so. Because it's a great device. My kids love it. They consume all their TV through Apple TV. Because it's simple, right? There's no complexity for them to use it. We used to have, a cable controller. It's had 1,000 buttons on it, and they couldn't use it at all, which is that's a good thing. But now they use Apple TV, and they can talk to it, and they can press buttons, and it's really easy. So we use that a heck of a lot. What they would change, I don't know. I mean, it hasn't been a hit, let's face it. So there's no need to up the hardware to be more powerful just yet. It's a real shame. Smongo, it's a single track event. You will see all talks. There's only one set of talks happening at any given time. There's not multiple talks. So you'll be fine. Yeah, the Mac Mini is great. I think if I didn't have to get a new screen at the same time, I would definitely switch to a Mac Mini. Problem is, I'm really tired of having dongles galore on my MacBook Pro because this thing connects to my 5K screen. This is a 27-inch screen, right? You can't see it, but it's a big screen. And it only has USB-C. There's no USB-A on my screen for no reason whatsoever. The iMac Pro has USB-A and USB-C and Ethernet and because it's a multi-device connectivity. So I want to have an iMac Pro really. I'm hoping we'll get a decent bump, but regardless, I'm getting one as soon as it's bumped next, because I need one. It'd be really nice, because this thing's getting old. It's 2.5 years old now, this thing, so it needs a replacement. And I'm going to do CoreML. So what have I done so far? I've done a video called CoreML for Everyone, or was it CoreML for Everyone, on YouTube, which you should watch. It took me a long time to make that video. Watch that video. That's my best attempt at explaining how CoreML and CoreML work right now. It's in Advanced iOS 2 and in Practical iOS 12. And I've done one Sunday's live stream. So together there's maybe 5 projects plus a detailed technique thing in that YouTube video. So I think that's enough for now. Maybe it's do some more later on, I'm not sure yet, we'll see. Generickson, do any of my books address URL session, network encodable and result? No, they don't, and they ought to. And I know that, and I want to do that, but I haven't quite got my plan in place for that just yet, I'm afraid. So hopefully soon, we'll see. I've had such a lot of work recently with the holidays of Swift and the book updates and similar. It's been relentless for the last sort of 4 months or so. So I get a few days off between here and DubDub. I wish I'd be doing my server update. Yay. And after that, of course, it gets manic again with the new updates from iOS 13 and 10.15 and similar. So it's no break on the horizon soon to do that kind of book. But I wish I could. I really do want to. Do I use Docker? Only when I have to, which is for Linux stuff, but broadly no. Can you run app side-by-side Apple TV? No, you cannot. It's not designed for that, I'm afraid. Perhaps they'll improve that in tvOS 13. I don't know. We'll see. No, the thing is, I don't even know what I'm going to add in tvOS 13. Everyone's saying, you know, multi-window stuff in iOS, great. Dark mode in iOS, great. Well, we have dark mode on tvOS already. So there's going to be that on tvOS. Question is, what will we get? I don't know. We'll see. So, who knows? Who knows? Any more questions? Why is Apple pushing AR so hard? Apple are definitely 100% working on multiple AR skunkworks projects. Multiple. I don't know when they'll announce. No one does, other than a handful of folks in a secret building in Cupertino. Not in the mothership, they're actually in their own building. But probably glasses or a headset or something like that. No one's quite sure yet what it is, when they'll announce, but it's going to be big. Everyone says the same thing about ARKit. It's wonderful, it's super clever, it's super easy, but it's just so weird and annoying having to hold your phone up. No one wants to sort of do that. When we see folks holding up, you know, iPad Pros, it looks weird, right? So it's going to get better, I think. We'll see. We'll see. I think I have a cat allergy, Simon, is what I think. You haven't seen the cat yet. We have a cat. I do have a slight cold as of this morning, which is great time for WWDC. But we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, wine cures everything. Any more questions? By the way, because the stream's gone over 2 hours, it takes YouTube longer to prepare the replay. Anything past 2 hours takes them an hour or two. What you'll see is it trims the beginning randomly. It just jumps halfway through. And then eventually they do the whole thing. It'll end up being 2.5 hours, whatever it actually is, the full length. But for now, it'll look weird. Last chance of questions. If you have questions afterwards, of course, you can tweet me. I am 2straws. You can join the Hacking with Swift Slack group to ask questions there. You can email me if you must. I am paul@hackingwithswift.com. Be warned, I have a massive email backlog all the time. Folks are now emailing me again saying, well, I haven't written back to the first email. So, yeah, email isn't ideal. Six cats. Yeah, honestly, we had a cat for 10 years before I realised I was allergic to him, because it took a long time for the sort of allergies to build up, and that's at a point where it's pretty bad. Yes, regarding the next stream, Rob, I don't know when it is. I have no idea because, you know, I've been so busy for the last 4 months since February the 1st that, you know, Double gets really busy. You'll see me putting out a lot of content during Double week, stacks of stuff, really busy time. After that, there'll be a long trail of, you know, still doing content, and when it slows down, I need a break. I need time off from doing constant Swift. So I'm going to ease off the Sunday streams for a while, certainly until probably August. I also do a conference in July as well, so it'll be a while for my next Sunday stream, which is why I want this one nice and long. Less wine. Get out of town. If I'm going to be ill, I might as well be happy and ill rather than unhappy and ill. I always love WWDC. It's hard not to. It's so much fun. It's so exciting. You meet all your friends. You're all buzzing about stuff. You learn so much in an hour sometimes at the right lab. Yeah, it's great fun. Great fun. How do you know users tap the home button? The home indicator swiped up, because you'll get told application will enter the background in your app delegate. Let me try and share my screen again. There we go. You'll get told, did enter background, there. You are leaving the background, what do you want to do? And that's your chance to say, save data, or whatever you want to do, there. That's how you do it normally. If you want to, you can monitor it anywhere if you want to. I'm going to do it there. You can add an observer for the exact event if you really want to, but whatever works. J Pratt, it is not all derivative from C. It's a silly thing to say. C itself came from B, if you didn't already know. Bell Labs, B. Alright, folks. I think that's all questions done. I will see you, I don't know when. You're going to see stacks of videos from me coming up, you know, imminently, but not live stuff, I expect. I might do one special one, maybe, I'm not sure, depending on what they announce at DubDub. We'll figure it out. Otherwise, come and see me live at Hackers Live. If you've not already liked the video, please like the video. It helps me, helps you, helps everybody. Otherwise, I will see you next time, whenever that is. Okay? Take care, folks. Bye.